Hey there. Tonight, we're not diving into a ghost story. No kings getting overthrown. No medieval warlords with bloodlust and chronic back pain. No thunderstorms or rain tapping gently on the windows because you're going somewhere where it never rains. Where the sun doesn't shine, it attacks. We're going back. Way back. Not to the 1800s. Not to Rome. We're traveling over 3,000 years into the past. Welcome to ancient Egypt, the land of pyramids, gods, gold, and deeply uncomfortable living conditions. But tonight, you're not here as a historian. You're not a museum visitor or a Netflix binger. You're not even a noble, or a priest, or a scribe who gets to sit all day and complain about how the ink smells. You're just a person. A very regular person. You have no palace, no clean water, no sandals that fit. You're waking up in a house made of dried mud. You sleep on a straw mat. You bathe in a river filled with fish guts, hippo poop, and possibly someone's floating uncle. And guess what? That's the good part. Let's talk about your wake-up call. There's no alarm. There's no phone. There's no soothing lo-fi playlist to help you ease into your morning. There's just sunlight, brutal, unfiltered desert sunlight, slamming through the holes in your wall like a divine spotlight trying to remind you that you are very, very mortal. Congratulations. You've survived the night. But now the real struggle begins. Because out here, in the land of Aryan sandstorms, every single day is survival mode. No cold brew. No shower. No multivitamin gummy. Just warm beer and bread so gritty it comes with a dental warning. The air already smells like sweat, clay, and livestock. And you haven't even stood up yet. You can hear your neighbor arguing with a goat. Someone's already tripped over a jar. And in exactly 5 minutes, you'll be knee-deep in either a field or someone else's laundry water. Because this isn't a documentary. This is your life. But don't worry. I'll walk you through it. Slowly. Gently. Like a friend watching you get sunburned and saying, "Wow, that looks painful." For the next few hours, we're going to live a full day in ancient Egypt. Not as a ruler. Not as a mummy. Just as a human. With blisters, bad breath, and a prayer to make it to sundown. We'll talk about what you eat, how you work, how you sleep, how you get sick, how you hopefully don't die from an infected molar and a curse in the same week, and how somehow this place still managed to build wonders that survived thousands of years, even if you probably won't survive the morning. So get comfortable. Or as comfortable as you can in a 110 degrees Fahrenheit hut filled with bugs, sand, and a heat stroke just waiting to happen. Let's begin. You open your eyes and immediately regret it. The sun is already screaming at you through the wall. And I say, wall, but it's really more like a suggestion of structure, some dried mud, reeds, and wishful thinking. There are no curtains. No blinds. Not even a leaf stuck to the window. Because there is no window. Just a hole. And through that hole comes heat. Relentless, unapologetic heat. It's not even mid-morning, but the temperature is already flirting with 90 degrees Fahrenheit, about 32 Celsius, if you're fancy, and climbing fast. You are not in a bed. Beds are for people who own things. You are lying on a straw mat that feels like someone tried to build a mattress out of broomsticks and broken promises. You have a linen sheet, thin, itchy, and utterly useless, more decorative than functional. Like a napkin at a barbecue. Your body is already sweating like it's afraid it'll forget later. There is no fan. No breeze. That Nile wind you heard about in the travel documentaries? Yeah. That died in 2800 BC. You sit up. Slowly. The floor is made of dirt. Not dirt that was poured into place. Just the actual ground. You are one deep sigh away from accidentally rediscovering a beetle. You scratch your shoulder and dust comes off. Not just from the room. From you. There is sand in your hair. In your ears. Probably in your dreams. It's fine. It's always there. You're not dirty. You're just Egyptian now. You duck through the low doorway. Because everything here was built by and for people who were under 5'7", and step outside into the bright, burning embrace of the sun god Ra, who greets you with a blast of ultraviolet hostility. And here's the thing. The sun doesn't just shine here. It attacks. It cooks your skin. It fries your brain. It laughs at your linen tunic, which might as well be made of tissue paper in a sauna. There is no sunscreen. No SPF 50. Ancient Egyptians had protective oils, sure, but unless you work in a temple or own a gold-plated cat, you're not getting any. So what's your protection plan? Mud? Or crocodile dung? Yes. That's real. And yes, you're smearing it on yourself. Because if you don't, you will bake. Literally. You are one step away from becoming a walking falafel. Your sandals, if you even have any, are made of woven reeds and hope. The ground beneath you? It's not warm. It's lava adjacent. Stones so hot you could boil lentils on them. And probably will. There is no shade. Shade is a luxury. Trees are rare. A real tree might as well be a unicorn. If you're lucky, you can huddle behind a crumbling mud brick wall that's just slightly less hot than the sun. And you better not complain. Because Ra is listening. And in Egypt, the hotter the day, the stronger the god. If you're melting, it means you're being blessed. What a treat. You squint toward the river, because you're going to need water soon. But you can already smell it. Yes, that's the Nile. Sacred. Legendary. Lifeblood of an empire. And also, fishy, funky, and lightly seasoned with sewage. But that's a problem for 20 minutes from now. For now, you're still just trying to survive the first 5 minutes of being awake. Because welcome to ancient Egypt. Where the sun wants to kill you, the ground wants to burn you, and your best hope is to start sweating early and just never stop. And the day has only just begun. Time to clean yourself. Or at least try. Because in ancient Egypt, clean is more of a theory than a condition. You head toward the river, the Nile, which, by the way, you're legally and spiritually required to respect. It's sacred. Holy. The lifeblood of civilization. Also, it smells like a fish market went through a breakup with a swamp. You smell it before you see it. It's a potent mix of algae, dead fish, mud, and whatever floated downstream from the town 3 miles up. And what floated downstream could be anything. Livestock. Waste. The occasional funeral barge. Bits of someone. But it's fine. Because this is your bathroom. There is no soap. Not unless you work in a temple or you're royalty. You have sand. That's right. Welcome to ancient exfoliation. You don't scrub with loofahs or fancy citrus body wash. You grab a handful of gritty, coarse sand and rub it across your sweaty, sun-baked body like you're trying to polish yourself back into being a person. Skincare? You're basically sandpapering your own soul. Smooth? Maybe. Clean? Debatable. You wade into the shallows, water up to your knees. It's warm. Not in a comforting spa kind of way. More like, hasn't cooled down since the sun was born. Kind of warm. You look around. You are not alone. There's a family doing laundry by bashing their clothes on a rock. There's a donkey drinking from the same spot you're standing in. There's a kid splashing next to a goose that looks like it's plotting something. And somewhere, not far from where your foot just sank into something squishy, is a crocodile. Or several. You don't see them. You never do. That's the trick. They're not like cartoon crocodiles. They don't pop up with little hats and big smiles. They just appear. Fast. And without apology. But bathing here isn't optional. You do this every day. Because you have no plumbing. No tubs. The Nile is your shower, your laundry machine, your spa, your drinking fountain, and yes, your toilet too. All in one convenient, questionably hygienic package. And don't expect privacy. This is very public. You, your neighbors, livestock, insects the size of fingers, and that one weird ibis bird that always seems to stare too long, you're all sharing this space. It's awkward. It's messy. But hey, it's tradition. You dip under, wash your face, try not to think about what just brushed past your leg. You scrub your tunic. You fill a clay jar with water and balance it on your head like it's not 20 pounds, and you don't already have a sore neck. You try to feel refreshed. You mostly feel wet, and maybe itchy, and slightly infected. You step out, dripping and grateful to be alive. You now have a thin layer of cleanliness, and a thicker layer of whatever the Nile felt like giving you today. Congratulations. You're technically bathed. And you only saw 2 leeches. Maybe 3. It's hard to tell what's a bug and what's just now vibes. So now you're cleanish, damp, slightly traumatized, and ready for breakfast. Which is good. Because you're hungry. And breakfast, well, let's just say you're going to miss cereal. You've bathed in a river that smells like regret. You're damp, lightly exfoliated, and you've survived the crocodile gauntlet. Which means it's time for the most important meal of the day. Breakfast. Or, as we like to call it in ancient Egypt, the daily grind. Literally. Forget eggs. Forget fruit. Forget coffee. Your breakfast is not about enjoyment. It's about fueling your body just enough to not pass out before noon. Let's start with the setting. You don't sit at a table. You squat. Or sit on a rock. Or crouch in a dusty corner that doesn't have goat poop on it. If you're lucky, you've got a low stool. But let's not pretend that's comfort. That's just dignity on a budget. The centerpiece of your meal is bread. Always bread. It's not soft. Not fluffy. It's not sourdough, whole wheat, multigrain, or artisan anything. It's a dense, flat, jaw-testing chunk of ancient carbs made from emerald wheat or barley ground between stones so rough they add a little something extra. That something extra? Sand, gravel, grit, maybe a fingernail. Every bite comes with texture, and not the good kind. It's like eating a brick, if the brick resented you. And this wasn't a one-off mistake. No. This is every day. Grinding grain between stone slabs meant tiny fragments of rock worked their way into the flour. So every loaf slowly files your teeth down like you're chewing on a dental sanding block. It's why archaeologists find Egyptian skulls with teeth worn flat like river pebbles. Not from age. From breakfast. You chew slowly. Carefully. Because one wrong bite and you're chipping a molar on something that was probably someone else's rock 5 minutes ago. And now the drink. Ah yes, beer. But don't get excited. This isn't chilled. There's no foam. No bottle. No label that says old citrus notes with a smooth finish. Nope. This beer is thick, cloudy, and warm. It's more like a barley smoothie that sat out in the sun for a while. It's porridge that gave up halfway through, but it's full of calories. It's made from half-baked bread soaked in water and left to ferment. And because it's boiled during brewing, it's actually safer than water. Yes, you're drinking it for health reasons. Even kids drink it. Not because it's cool, but because it won't kill them immediately. If you're lucky, and I mean suspiciously lucky, there might be an onion or a dried fig. Maybe some leftover fish bits if someone caught something and didn't eat it all on the spot. But don't hold your breath. You eat your sand loaf. You sip your hot, yeasty barley slush. Flies buzz around like it's a buffet, because for them, it is. You swat, chew, sigh, repeat. By the end, your jaw hurts, your stomach's only partially convinced it's been fed, and you're slightly more tired than when you woke up. But you're fueled. Barely. It's enough to get you through the morning grind. And by grind, I mean either literal grain, back-breaking labor, or existential despair, depending on your job. Because now that you've eaten your daily rock loaf and sipped your warm sadness, it's time to work. And if you thought breakfast was hard to digest, just wait till you see what comes next. You've eaten. Kind of. You've washed. Technically. And now, the sun's gotten higher. Which means it's time to contribute to society. A noble concept that here mostly translates to manual labor until something breaks. Probably you. Let's start with the odds. You are not a scribe. You are not a priest. You are definitely not royalty. Which means you are one of the following: a farmer, a laborer, a craftsman, a woman who does everything and still doesn't get thanked for it. No matter which one you are, the work is physical, constant, dusty, unrelenting, and no one's handing out PTO. Tractor if you're a farmer. Congratulations. You've been awake since before the sun was. And now you're ankle-deep in Nile mud, planting barley, pulling weeds, hauling water, and avoiding snakes that don't believe in personal space. You use tools that look like they were designed by someone angrier would. Your plow is a stick. Your sickle is dull. Your fingers? Raw. There is no such thing as ergonomics. Back pain isn't a complaint. It's a sign of productivity. If your spine doesn't feel like it's trying to file for divorce, you're not working hard enough. Overseeing you is a man whose job is to yell and carry a stick. He doesn't plan anything. He just tells you how badly you're doing it. Building construction if you're a laborer. Things get even more biblical. You're hauling limestone blocks the size of horses. Up ramps. In the sun. With nothing but ropes, sweat, and hope. Your feet? Bare. Your skin? Roasted. Your safety equipment? Imaginary. Trip and fall? That's a broken ankle and a shrug from your foreman. And maybe, if you're lucky, someone drags you off to die in the shade. If you're building a tomb, your job includes carving out burial chambers for people who will get more rest in death than you'll ever see alive. Mess up a pharaoh's tomb? You might become part of the tomb, as in, sealed inside. Forever. With a curse. And some extremely judgmental wall paintings. Thread if you're a woman. You do it all. Grind grain. Weave linen. Haul water. Raise kids. Prepare food. Milk goats. Fix roofs. And somehow still get blamed when the bread burns or the Nile doesn't flood properly. You're out in the field during harvest. You're up before the men. You go to sleep after everyone else. Your break? Maybe the 7 minutes when your baby takes a nap and no one is actively yelling your name. You eat on your feet. You wipe sweat with your tunic. You pray while you stir the pot and crush the grain. You never stop. Because slowing down means someone else gets your ration. And you get nothing. Sun, no shade. No breaks. No end in sight. You're not clocking in or out. Your only boss is the sun. And it's a micromanager. By mid-afternoon, your clothes are stiff with dust and salt. You don't sweat anymore because you're out of water. Your skin is burned. Your mouth tastes like copper. And the only thing waiting for you at home is more work. But maybe you're tempted. Just a little. To complain. Maybe under your breath. Maybe just a muttered, "This job is killing me." Well, don't. Because in ancient Egypt, complaining about your job isn't just frowned upon. It's treason. Your boss? He's not just a guy. He's the pharaoh. And the pharaoh isn't a man. He's a god. Snake, the divine work environment. If your crops grow, it's thanks to the pharaoh. If they fail, it's probably your fault. Or your neighbor didn't pray hard enough. You don't question the system. You don't grumble about working conditions. You don't unionize. You smile. And you praise the gods. And you chisel that statue for 14 hours a day. Because it is an honor to serve the divine. At least that's what the state says. You say it too, because anything else could get you a beating, a cell, or an early promotion to the underworld. Your boss's face is everywhere. On the walls. On your bread mold. He's painted bigger than everyone else on every mural. He is massive. You are dust. And dust does not complain. Skull at the end of the day. You stumble home. Your muscles ache. Your back hums with pain. You've inhaled enough sand to qualify as part of the desert. And there's still dinner to make, clothes to clean, tools to sharpen, kids to soothe, prayers to whisper, water to haul. And tomorrow, you'll do it all over again. Because in ancient Egypt, labor doesn't just exhaust you. It defines you. You work until you break. And then you keep going. Because the sun doesn't set for sympathy. Let's talk about management. You know how in the modern world, your boss might send emails at 9 p.m. or forget your name in meetings? In ancient Egypt, your boss doesn't email. He etches decrees into stone and has songs written about how magnificent his calves are. Oh, and he's also a god. No, seriously. A literal god. Not a guy who thinks he's a god. He is one, by state definition, by religious doctrine, and by the fact that questioning him could land you in a pit so deep no one will ever find your sandals. Classic building meet the pharaoh. He's not elected. He's not promoted. He's born into it. And not just into a royal family. He's born as the living embodiment of Horus, son of Ra, ruler of both the upper and lower kingdoms, and part-time cosmic stabilizer of the universe. He's not just a king. He's the glue holding Ma'at, divine order, together. If the river floods properly this year, thank the pharaoh. If it doesn't, well, maybe you didn't sacrifice enough goats. Or someone sneezed during the wrong moon phase. Or maybe the pharaoh's divine power is testing you. In any case, your problem, not his. Amphory, you are not on his radar. Let's be clear, you will never meet the pharaoh. You will never speak to him. You will never send him a letter or look him in the eyes. The closest you'll get is seeing a golden boat glide by during a religious procession. You'll blink. You'll cheer. And then he's gone, carried away by servants you'll also never meet. He lives in a palace you can't enter, surrounded by guards you can't approach, with scribes, advisors, and the kind of wealth that makes your whole house look like a shed made by accident. Performing arts propaganda, but make it divine. His image is everywhere. On statues. On walls. On bread molds, just in case you needed to feel spiritually inferior while chewing your gravel toast. He's always drawn bigger than everyone else. That's not artistic choice, it's the law. Pharaohs are to be shown in scale with their status, which is to say, enormous. Even in art, he's never sad. He's never confused. He's never having a bad beard day. He's always triumphant. Always divine. Always the one holding the mace, never the one getting hit with it. Hindu temple working on his projects? Lucky you. If you're building a temple, or carving a statue, or hauling a slab of stone the size of your self-worth, you're doing it in his honor. And if you hate it, you keep that to yourself. Because serving the divine is your civic duty. Also, complaining is dangerous. There are no suggestion boxes. No unions. No performance reviews unless you count being whipped for slowing down. One village withheld taxes once. It doesn't exist anymore. That's not a metaphor. It's just gone. Wiped off the map like it never existed. So maybe keep your opinions to yourself. Snake the divine chain of command. The pharaoh commands everyone. The priests enforce divine will. The scribes write it down. The officials tax you. And you say thank you? You're the base of a pyramid, both metaphorically and sometimes literally. Above you, layers and layers of sacred bureaucracy. Below you, hot sand, back pain, and the vague hope that the afterlife includes reclining furniture. And sure, sometimes you might feel like something's unfair. Like maybe the whole system is rigged in favor of one dude with a leopard skin sash and access to air circulation. But then you remember, he's not just the ruler. He's the God King. The bridge between heaven and earth. The keeper of harmony. The guy whose name you're legally required to say with reverence. Even if you're missing teeth because the statue carved for him chipped your molar. Person kneeling, so what do? You bow. You pray. You build. You chant his name during festivals you're too tired to enjoy. You pretend his face carved into a wall is so majestic it makes you feel blessed to be covered in mosquito bites and hauling bricks at dawn. Because in ancient Egypt, divine order depends on everyone playing their part. And your part is to be humble, to be obedient, and to be grateful that you were born close enough to greatness to be crushed by it. So you put your head down, you wipe the sweat from your eyes, and you go back to work. For the glory of Pharaoh, and the survival of, well, mostly him. Let's talk about religion. Not the go to temple on Sundays kind. Not say grace at dinner and try not to curse before bed kind. No. In ancient Egypt, religion is everything. It's your calendar. It's your medical plan. It's your alarm clock, job description, bedtime routine, and emergency contact. You don't have religion. You exist inside it. Sunrise gods? Plural. A lot of them. There isn't just one god. There are dozens. And every one of them is deeply invested in what you're doing with your hands, your food, your hair, your livestock, and your soul. Let's meet a few of your new roommates. Ra, the sun god. Big deal. Literally lights your world. Thoth, god of wisdom, writing, and the moon. Also has the head of an ibis, because why not? Sobuk, crocodile god who watches over the Nile. May or may not be judging your bathing technique. Batet, cat goddess. Bringer of protection, fertility, and divine. Don't mess with me. Energy. Set, god of chaos. Think, every bad day you've ever had, now personified and possibly living under your bed. Performing arts your daily to-do list, pleasing the pantheon. Before breakfast? Thank Ra. Before drinking beer? Offer a sit to Hatha. Stub your toe? Whisper an apology to whichever spirit you probably offended with your clumsy human feet. Didn't leave a bit of bread for the gods? Congrats, your house might be haunted by a vengeful spirit named Kufa's Regret. And bedtime? That's not just lay down and snore. That's a full-on ritual. You light incense. You chant. You ask Set not to send any chaos demons into your dreams. Because those are a thing. And they bite. Cristobal spiritual infrastructure. Your town has temples. Plural. Each one dedicated to a different god or goddess. They're massive, impressive, and also completely off-limits unless you're a priest, nobility, or a well-fed goose. These temples aren't just churches. They're banks, hospitals, political HQs, and spiritual weather stations. The priests who run them? Highly trained, highly respected, and highly into ritual bathing. Multiple times a day. Why? Because the gods are picky. Even your sweat might be offensive to the divine, which, in your defense, is mostly the sun's fault. Balance scale the afterlife, not just death. It's a performance review. Let's fast forward, way forward, to the end. You've lived your dusty, sand-covered life. You've worked. You've prayed. You've maybe stepped on a cursed scarab once or twice. Now what? Well, in ancient Egypt, dying is just the beginning. Welcome to the Hall of Judgment. Your soul stands before Osiris, god of the afterlife. Your heart, your little heart, is placed on a scale. On the other side, a feather. Not just any feather. The feather of Ma'at, the cosmic principle of truth, balance, and divine order. If your heart is lighter than the feather, you pass. You get eternal life. Fields of reeds. A boat. Maybe a garden. Sounds nice. But if your heart is heavier, weighed down by lies, cruelty, maybe a little goat theft, then, well, meet Amit. Part lion, part crocodile, part hippo, and all soul-snacking nightmare fuel. She eats your heart. You are erased from existence. No second chance. No. Let me speak to the manager. Just oblivion. So yeah. Maybe don't steal that goat. Nazar Millet faith, but also insurance. Because the gods are watching you constantly, most people carry amulets, little charms for protection. Got a headache? Maybe it's not dehydration. Maybe it's a spirit gnawing at your aura. Time for an Eye of Horus necklace and a quick spell mumbled under your breath. Giving birth? Hope you've got a hippo goddess figurine nearby. Tarit. Look her up. She's terrifying and lovely. Starting a new job? Better recite a prayer, rub an oil, and spit 3 times over your left shoulder. Just to be safe. Ancient Egyptians didn't think of magic and religion as separate. They were the same thing. Spells, gods, rituals, all part of daily life. You don't need to believe in it. You just do it. Because not doing it? Well, let's just say Set is always looking for new victims. Folded hands in summary. You pray when you wake up. You pray when you eat. You pray when you're sick. You pray when you sneeze. You pray when you dream of a fish with legs, because that could mean literally anything. You live every day between divine approval and cosmic punishment. It's exhausting, but also oddly comforting. Because if you do everything right, if you live in accordance with Ma'at, honor the gods, treat people fairly, and don't kick any cats, then maybe, just maybe, you'll make it to the next world. And maybe this time, there will be actual shade. You're sick. Maybe it's something simple, a sore throat, a stomachache, a weird rash that looks like it's spelling your name. Or maybe you stepped on a scorpion, swallowed river water, or sneeze too loud during a solar eclipse. Whatever it is, you need help. So you go to the doctor. Kind of. In ancient Egypt, doctors are more than just healers. They're priests, doctor, magician, historians with a specialty in doing what we've always done and hoping it works. Adult medical symbol the doctor will chant for you now. The Egyptian word for doctor was SWNW, pronounced Sunoel, and they were surprisingly advanced. They had medical texts written on papyrus, surgical instruments made from bronze, detailed anatomical knowledge, a deep understanding of the mystical nature of your spleen. Because while they understood physical injury, they also believed most illness had spiritual roots. So you weren't just infected, you were cursed, or possessed, or targeted by a spirit with serious emotional baggage. Treatment starts with a diagnosis and a spell. Sometimes multiple spells, possibly in rhyme. Lotion bottle, let's talk remedies. You want modern medicine? You're early by 3,000 years. You want creative uses of household items and questionable ingredients? You're in luck. Here's a sample from the ancient Egyptian healing cabinet. Honey, antibacterial. Actually works. You're safe here. Moldy bread, surprisingly smart. Some penicillin properties. Crushed herbs, mint, garlic, cumin, decent. Cow dung, less great. Still popular, especially when mixed with dates and applied to the chest. Lizard blood, sometimes used for eye infections. Yes, the eyes. Crocodile fat, for unclear reasons. Beer, used as a base for medicinal pastes, or just to make you not care about what's being rubbed on your body. They'd smear the mixture on your skin, recite a few protective incantations, and maybe wave a symbol over your head. If that didn't work, they'd escalate to more spells. You'd think this was silly. But honestly, what do you expect when the Nile has hippos and your village has no hand sanitizer? Axe surgery. Yes, really? Let's say it's serious. You've got a deep wound, or an abscess the size of a fig, or a broken bone after a fun fall off the work ramp. You're going under the knife. And by knife, we mean bronze blade that was probably used on someone else this week. Surgery in ancient Egypt did happen. Doctors drained infections, stitched wounds, even set broken bones with splints. But there was one catch. No anesthesia. Not even a mild numbing spell. Just a friend to hold you down and a brick to scream into. Loudly. Pain? Assumed. Accepted. Possibly divine punishment for forgetting an offering last week. Tooth dental care? Nope. Just nope. You remember the bread, right? The one with sand and bits of rock? Well, turns out chewing gravel every day for 30 years does a number on your teeth. Egyptian skulls show severe dental wear, abscesses, and cracks. Some people had teeth ground flat by the time they were 25. So what did they do when a tooth got infected? Option 1, live with it and die slowly. Option 2, have it pulled out using a metal hook forged by someone who also makes fishing tools. Option 3, cow dung. Again, we don't know why. They just kept using it. There were no fillings, no toothbrushes, no dentists with gentle hands and polite warning taps. Just pain. Constant, dull, dusty pain. But hey, maybe the gods were testing you. Crystal ball the magical side effects. Even after treatment you weren't cleared. You were probably given an amulet to wear, a scarab beetle, an ink, an eye of Horus, each with protective powers and vague disclaimers. And of course, you're expected to burn incense, recite more spells, avoid eating certain fish, sleep with a charm under your pillow, never say the word fever, out loud in case it hears you and comes back stronger. You see, medicine wasn't just physical. It was moral, spiritual, social. And even if the wound healed, if you didn't fix your vibe with the gods, it would just come back. Person kneeling hope, fear, and a little moldy bread. In the end, Egyptian medicine is a bizarre, brilliant, terrifying mix of real insight, verbal innovation, magical thinking, and total desperation. You didn't expect it to cure you. You hoped it would please the gods enough to let you recover. And if it didn't, well, there's always the afterlife. They've got full coverage there. You don't need talent. You just shake something and hope the gods are in a good mood. If you're a woman, and you can sing or dance, you might be invited to perform in noble houses or temples, which is a big deal, unless you also have to serve beer and babysit 2 cats mid-performance. Which you probably do. Game die games, gambling, and that one guy who always cheats. Ever heard of Senet? It's the national board game of ancient Egypt. It's sort of like chess, and backgammon had a confusing, divine child. The board has 30 squares, and the goal is to move your pieces safely into the afterlife. Yes, even the board game has religious undertones. You can also roll knucklebones like dice, or play with balls made of papyrus, or wrestle, if you're feeling brave and or don't mind sand in places sand should never go. Gambling was technically frowned upon. But you're human. You've had a long day. And that last round of beer was stronger than expected. So yeah, let's bet on goat races. Hide with their love, flirting, and other dangerous activities. Now let's talk about romance. Yes, ancient Egyptians fell in love. They had crushes. They wrote poetry. Some of it was intense. Like, I would drink the water you wash your hands in, which sounds romantic until you remember there's no soap. Still, there were love letters. Handwritten lines on papyrus that basically said, "You make me forget how much sand is in my shoes." Marriage was common, but not always sacred. There was affection, sure, but also economics, family arrangement, and the occasional, "Oops, I accidentally married my cousin again" moment. Women had more rights than in many ancient societies. They could own property, divorce, even sue people. But they also carried the mental, emotional, and physical labor of basically everything. So if you're thinking of flirting with the baker's daughter, bring a gift. Maybe a necklace. Definitely don't mention the rash on your leg. No one finds that charming. Candle parties, beer, and forgetting your name. Let's say the harvest went well. Or someone important died. Or someone important came back from not dying. It's festival time. You gather with neighbors. You dress up in your cleanest tunic, which still smells like the Nile. You paint your eyes with kohl, black eyeliner made from lead and magic. You put scented fat cones on your head, which melt slowly and drip perfume down your scalp. Yes, it's weird. Yes, it's supposed to be elegant. There's food, mostly bread again, and beer. So much beer. And dancing. And singing. And somewhere in the distance, someone's cat knocks over a statue. At these parties, people really let go. There are songs with lyrics like, "Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we sail to the west." That's code for, "We're all going to die eventually, so refill my cup." Bed and finally, sleep. It's late. The stars are out. You lie back on your mat, your hair smelling faintly of melted perfume, your feet coated in a fine dusting of Nile crust. You don't have a pillow. Just a wooden headrest designed to support the neck and discourage sleeping on your face. Possibly invented by someone who hated comfort. Your house creaks. The wind rustles through the cracks. You hear frogs, donkeys, maybe a flute off in the distance, and maybe, just maybe, a guard watching from the shadows, wondering if you remembered to offer incense this morning. You drift off, tired, sore, mildly buzzed, but for now, at peace. Because tomorrow is another day, another loaf of gravel bread, another bucket of Nile water, another chance not to get cursed, crushed, or eaten by something sacred. Sleep tight. Don't let the beetles bite. Eventually, like everyone else in ancient Egypt, you die. Maybe it was the heat. Maybe it was that infected molar. Maybe a hippo had some opinions. Whatever the reason, your time on earth is up. But don't get too comfortable. Because in Egypt, death is not a time to relax. It's a time to prepare for a journey that makes your old job hauling rocks look like a beach vacation. First comes the grief. Then comes the admin. If your family has any money, and that's a big if, the morning begins with wailing. Loud, dramatic, public. Hired mourners will scream, throw dust on themselves, and rip their clothes, all to show the gods how deeply you'll be missed. If your family doesn't have money, well, there might still be some crying. Quiet, understated, in a corner, and then back to work. But either way, your body, it's got a schedule, because there's a strict multi-day operation ahead. Lotion bile mummification, the art of foreverish. The wealthy get the full VIP treatment. 70 days of extreme spa services for the dead. Step 1. Take out the brain, through the nose, using a hook tool. There's no polite way to say this. It's exactly as unpleasant as it sounds. Step 2. Remove the internal organs. All of them. Your lungs, liver, stomach, intestines, each carefully extracted and placed in canopic jars topped with animal-headed gourds. Each jar watches over its contents like a weird clay babysitter. Step 3. Cover the body in natron salt, like ancient embalming powder, and let it dry for over a month. You basically become a human raisin. Step 4. Stuff the body with linens, resin, maybe some herbs. Wrap it. Layer after layer of linen strips soaked in sticky, pine-scented goo. Step 5. Place a mask on the face. If you're important, it's gilded. If you're not, it's hopeful. Step 6. Final blessings. Spells. Amulets tucked in between the wrappings. A scarab over the heart. A prayer for safe travels, and a warning to any evil spirits thinking of hitching a ride. If you're poor, well, you might get buried in a pit, maybe wrapped in old cloth. Hopefully not forgotten too fast, because without proper mummification, the soul can't find its way. And that's a big deal. Desert, the journey after death. You're not just dead. You're traveling across deserts, through dark tunnels, past demons, monsters, crocodile guards, and judgment halls. You must recite the right spells. Avoid saying forbidden words. Remember the names of gates, guardians, and that one door that looks like a nose but opens with a rhyme. Eventually, you reach the final test. The weighing of the heart. Balance scale Osiris and the feather of Maat. You stand before Osiris, god of the underworld. Your heart is placed on one side of a golden scale. On the other side, a feather, light, pure, and representing Maat, the divine principle of balance, order, and truth. If your heart is lighter than the feather, you pass. Welcome to the field of reeds, a lush paradise where you eat, drink, farm, yes, still farming, and hang out with family and pets for eternity. If your heart is heavier, enter Amit. Half lion, half hippo, half crocodile. all business. She eats your heart. You are erased from existence. No second chance. No haunting. Just goodbye forever. So yeah, you really should have returned that borrowed ox cart. House eternal life comes with paperwork. Even in paradise you need gear. Rich Egyptians were buried with food, clothing, weapons in case afterlife monsters get rowdy, furniture, board games, serving figurines called the Shabti, who magically do chores on your behalf, because not even eternity is free from housework. Tombs were like starter homes for the soul. The bigger the tomb, the fancier the afterlife. That's the dream. Of course, tombs also came with curses to scare off grave robbers. Whether the curses worked is debatable. But the robbers? Definitely real. Classical building death is a job creator. Mummification is an industry. Tomb building is an industry. Scribe writing spells on the wall? Industry. Carving tiny canopic jars shaped like jackals? Yep. Industry. You don't just die. You employ half your village. Which is kind of nice in a grim way. Your final act on Earth might have been stimulating the economy. Milk away in the end. Death in ancient Egypt was never about finality. It was about preparation, precision, and the terrifying possibility that your afterlife could suck if you messed it up. So people planned. They saved. They prayed. They built. They begged the gods to remember them. Because for the Egyptians, true death wasn't the body stopping. It was being forgotten. So if you lived right and played your cards and spells well, you got a second shot. And this time, with less sand. Hopefully. So, you made it. More or less. You woke up on a straw mat soaked in your own sweat. You bathed in a river filled with fish parts, spiritual baggage, and the occasional crocodile. You ate bread with the texture of gravel and washed it down with lukewarm, lumpy beer. You hauled rocks, bent your spine, blistered your hands, and prayed that your boss didn't notice you existed, because your boss is a god. You respected cats. You worshipped sunbeams. You wore eyeliner for both fashion and magical protection. You got sick. You got a spell. You got cow dung smeared on your chest. And you didn't even flinch when someone said, "This will only hurt until you pass out." You played music. You danced with strangers. You flirted awkwardly under a moonless sky. You offered your final breath to Osiris, hoping your heart wasn't heavier than your regrets. And if you were lucky, if the gods smiled, you were remembered. That's a full day in ancient Egypt. Sun Soul. Could you actually survive it? Let's be honest. You modern, internet-using, air-conditioned, emotionally fragile you would last about half a morning. Maybe. You'd wake up sweating. Scream at the heat, panic at the bugs, get heat stroke, slip on a wet patch of Nile and twist your ankle, break a tooth on breakfast, and cry when your tunic got itchy. By noon, you'd be begging Ari for cloud cover. Googling how to make SPF 50 out of reeds and disappointment, and trying to Venmo a crocodile for safe passage. It wouldn't be pretty, but and here's the thing. They did survive it. The Egyptians. Thousands of years ago. Without fans. Without Tylenol. Without running water or running shoes or running away from their problems. They built monuments that still stand. Created art that still moves us. Mapped the stars. Invented math. Held fast to a belief system so rich, so specific, and so weirdly poetic that we're still trying to understand it today. They lived fully. Under impossible heat. Under impossible systems. under gods who could bless them or curse them depending on the angle of the sun and the quality of their breakfast offering. And through all of that, they sang, they played games, they loved, they prayed, they told stories, they endured. ZZZ, and you made it to the end. Maybe you're still awake. Maybe you're already asleep, dreaming of reed sandals and moonlit tombs. Either way, you've traveled thousands of years in the span of a few hours. And maybe now, the next time you see a pyramid, or a dusty museum exhibit, or a black and white documentary narrated by someone named Nigel, you'll remember what it really felt like. Not just the facts, but the grit, the heat, the humanness of it all. Ancient Egypt wasn't just a place of gold and gods. It was a place of bad mornings, sore feet, weird rashes, laughter, fear, family, and the eternal question: did I remember to please the right God today? So sleep well, time traveler. Rest your head on something softer than a carved limestone headrest, ideally. And tomorrow, when you wake up, take a moment to appreciate your pillow, your toothbrush, your cold drinks and hot showers. Because you, my friend, are not in ancient Egypt anymore. And that is a blessing, even if your heart is still a little heavier than a feather. And that, dear time traveler, was one very long, very sandy, very sweaty day in ancient Egypt. You woke up too hot, bathed in suspicious water, ate crunchy bread, worked until your joints filed for early retirement, flirted at sunset, died dramatically, and still had to pass a moral exam in the afterlife. Not bad for a Tuesday. Now, the only question that matters. Backhand index pointing right, would you survive a full day in ancient Egypt? Let me know in the comments, be honest. Are you the high priest with backup sandals? Or would you have passed out 5 minutes after waking up to Ra's celestial oven? Also, which part surprised you the most? Would you want to visit ancient Egypt with a return ticket? Or do you think we're all already modern pharaohs, just with better plumbing? Leave your thoughts below. I really do read them. Unless I'm busy reenacting the embalming process for research. And hey, if this journey made you smile, laugh, learn something new, or feel deeply grateful for air conditioning, backhand index pointing right, hit that like button. Backhand index pointing right, subscribe if you enjoy history that comes with a side of sarcasm. Backhand index pointing right, and share this video with someone who thinks they'd thrive in the Bronze Age, just to test them. Thanks for watching, listening, or dozing off halfway through. No judgment. Ancient Egyptians believed dreams were sacred. So if you're asleep right now, you're basically doing a ritual. I'll see you in the next episode. Maybe not 3,000 years in the past next time. But no promises. Sleep well. Stay curious. And watch out for hippos.